Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto is a smart kid and he had eternal Sharingan in Chunin exams and after married with Yugito part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The start. Thinking. Biju, summon talk. Biju, summon think. Quote. The Yondaime is here. Everyone continue. Shouted a random Jonin on the front. Now although this sounds like someone is invading the Hidden Leaf village, you're wrong, not someone. Something. Kyuubi appeared in the middle of the village less than 20 minutes ago and has been destroying things ever since and no one has been able to stop it. Konoha's last chance stands with the 4th Hokage and whatever plan he has. Kuchio's no jutsu was heard above all else on the battlefield. Even the mighty Kyuubi stopped his rampage for a second to see what happened. There on top of the chief of the Toad's head Gamabunta was Minato Namikaze with a child in his hands. No one heard what he was saying to the child but they saw the child and this is where we start our story. Kyuubi, I know you escaped my wife and she is dying, that is not your fault. However, if you continue this line of attack even after I broke the person controlling you then I will have no choice but to end this. Leave now and live in peace. Roaarrrrrr, came the reply from the giant fox. So be it, Gamabunta hold him down so I can seal him. No verbal acknowledgement was needed between the two, they were the perfect team, one knew what the other was doing before they had done it. A skill rarely seen to this day within the shinobi world. Gamabunta jumped high into the sky and fired several water bullets aimed at stalling the great beast just long enough for him to land on top of him to hold him for what was needed for what was to come. Today was a sad day indeed. Minato, who was already speeding through hand seals with his son on top of the ceremonial pillar that is used for sealing, shouted, Shiki Fujin. All of a sudden he felt cold and could feel death crawling over him. He turned his head slightly to see an image of the Shinigami. Why have you summoned me, mortal? Careful about his choice of words, knowing everyone was listening and not wanting to give his son's identity away, yet he stated, Shinigami-sama, I want you to seal half of Kyuubi's chakra within you and then I will seal the rest with the 8 trigram seal I designed for him. It shall be done but the cost is your soul, do you want to proceed? Yes. Shinobi of Konoha, you will treat this boy like the hero he is for what I am about to burden him with, so Kami help me if I find out you denied my last wish I will come back from the dead and slaughter you all. Everyone paled listening to this but already made their minds up to ignore this wish, this child must have been born a demon to contain a demon they thought. Idiot's logic. The Shinigami reached down and pushed his hand through Minato's chest and reached out towards the Biju, grabbing half of its chakra. It visibly shrank in size to about half the height it was and a loud cheer went through the crowd as they watched their Hokage seal half its chakra. Wow! What chakra? Walking over to the infant he placed his hand on his stomach and shouted, Hake no Fuin Shiki. There, it's done. Sleep well child for soon you will be needed, I trust none other than you to hold this beast and one day you shall find out why. He leaned down into the child's ear and whispered, for you are my son, who else would a father trust with a burden such as this? As soon as those last words were uttered he fell down dead with the Sandaime Hokage arriving on the scene just after. Everyone return home, take the injured to the hospitals and the homeless to the temporary housing. I am reinstated as the Hokage, he said as picking the child up shunshining to his office which was still intact if a little shaken. Sandaime Hokage was placing the child within his crib. He of course knew who this child was. Not some orphan off the street as the crowd was led to believe but the son of a cage. He was born to be great. Minato left specific instructions regarding his newborn son who was named Naruto Uzumaki. He was to be left with the Uzumaki name and not told who his parents were until certain circumstances were met. Either he unlocks his bloodline, which they weren't entirely sure if he had it or not, or he reaches the rank of Chunin with a certain amount of missions that meant he was ready for the assassins that were sure to come. Just as he finished placing Naruto in his crib he felt the night breeze through the window and he could have sworn he heard someone speaking on the wind that sounded an awfully lot like, "Protect my son, for he is destined for greatness or greatness will be thrust upon him." A lone tear rolled down his cheek as he swore to protect Naruto the best he could. Magical ninja time skip. 5 years. If the past 5 years could be described in the word by either Naruto or the Sandyame Hokage, then that word would be hell. The Hokage did the best he could, but the civilians and most of the ninja were persistent and ignorant or the child's burden. Civilians would either throw him out of their stores or let him shop but overprice him by at least 3 times as much, and the sad thing was because of the civilian council they had every right to, because the shops were civilian owned. He couldn't do a thing. It got so bad that the only thing he could do was place a law forbidding anyone from speaking of his condition. He realized that he was basically turned into a figurehead, so to speak. The civilian council wrestled a lot of power from the Hokage and Shinobi Council before he could officially retake his former post after his predecessor's death. The worst part of this was quite simple. He looked to Naruto like he was his own grandson. He saw greatness in his eyes behind his mask of stupidity that he put up to fool the civilians, but he couldn't fool a man who had been through 3 wars and survived countless battles. No, he had his father genius all right, but he couldn't use it because the foolish villagers would rather a stupid demon than a smart one. But all was going to change tonight. Yes, tonight would be one of the last times anyone would see this stupid Naruto trying to gain attention from anyone and everyone. Naruto was a smart boy. He picked things up at an abnormal rate. He learned to read and write by himself because those fools at the orphanage sabotaged him. He learned to count like a normal child of his age and even knew that they hated him for some reason. Why? He had no idea, but he was pretty sure that he was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. You see, Naruto was regularly attacked by the villagers, and around his 3rd birthday was one of his worst attacks yet. If they caught him, he was sure to die, but somehow he found himself running quicker than any civilian should be able to. He later learned that he unlocked his chakra by accident, and by experimenting with it found out that he could use it to augment his muscles, meaning he could run faster than normal and hit harder. At a later date he found out that there was a seal on his stomach. He knew it was a seal because it only showed up when he molded his chakra, meaning it was chakra related and not some tattoo. Even at his age he could tell the complicated seals from the novice ones. A rather unique gift, if you could say, and he could tell that this was a rather advanced seal for something. Using all his stealth his had gained over his short life running from mobs and ninja, he snuck into the library to look at some sealing books. He couldn't find anything like his seal, but he could find some knowledge on some unique individuals that had massive chakra beasts sealed within them known as Jinchuriki. From that point on it was easy to fit the evidence together. The whispers of demon behind his back, and the day he was born the village was attacked by the Kyuubi, which happened to be a Biju. He was born and the 4th Hokage sealed the beast into a child. He could already tell that he didn't pick any child. The corresponding looks from father to son were too much to ignore. He knew that his father had done this to him, but he forgave him, simply because it was to protect his precious people. After all, what father could ask for another child for such a burden when he couldn't give his own, and who could he trust more than his own flesh and blood? No one. Today was his 5th birthday. Acting the fool unfortunately meant he had to act happy about today and walk around outside in front of the villagers, basically mocking them. The villagers didn't take too kindly to this, and every birthday formed some sort of mob to finish what the Yondaime started, which meant trying to kill Naruto. Naruto knew he would be alright. The pain may come and go, but he would live. Kyuubi wouldn't allow his host to die from something like this, as he found out early on. He had a very advanced healing factor, which he deduced was a side effect of the sealing. It allowed the village an outlet which stopped them more or less from attacking him every week. He would deal with this. He was a forgiving person who tried to see the best in people like his father did, but sometimes there just isn't enough to see. Naruto made his way through the village, strangely not getting attacked yet. This worried him, but he carried on and eventually made his way to the Hokage's monument, sitting atop his father's head looking at the night sky that was slowly starting to form with bright stars. He let a lone tear fall down his cheek as he thought of his life among the Hidden Leaf village. He could technically leave, but he wouldn't make it far. No matter how smart you are, no village will let their Jinchuriki leave. They are tools of war. Without the tools, wars would be lost. He had no idea the Sandyame was watching him the entire time with an Anbu squad on standby to save the poor boy if needed. He stared at the night sky and was entranced by its beauty. After a while he spoke quietly to the sky. You know San, ever since you thrust this burden upon me I've been beaten, starved, poisoned and God knows what else. I was born for greatness, from you I have your looks and your genius. I endure because no one else would, I live because I endure and I endure to protect my precious people. It is a vicious cycle that I'm not sure will ever end but it must. Sooner or later they will either kill me or I will kill them defending myself and the village shall turn on me in spite of what I have done for them. Sandyame was watching shocked. This boy was wise beyond his years and knew about his father. He could technically demand his inheritance and there would be nothing he could do about it, but before he could think any more he heard him continue his thought line. You know, when I was younger I asked the Sandyame if he knew why I was hated, a rare glimpse of my genius showing through my mask of stupidity. He lied to my face and said he didn't know, but I forgave him like I forgave you because he was trying his best to make my life livable. He told me a story instead, something to get my mind off the question. It didn't work but it gave me something to think about in my spare time. He looked up at the sky and said, the stars above shine bright and protect us. They are the lives of the shinobi and Hokage past that have given their lives for the village's security and peace. When we die, someone will always be hurt. To this day that has to be my favorite saying he has ever told me. It is true, he is wise for his age. When I die no star shall shine for me. I am a weapon of war to be disposed of like a kunai dropped on a battlefield. The cycle has to change soon or I fear I will join you. He let another tear stain his cheek while looking off into the distance and saw a glowing light which could be made out to be a mob of civilians with torches. He gave a sad smile. Time for my beating. Hopefully I survive this, but if not then I shall see you soon, father. The Hokage was shocked. This 5-year-old boy, no, this 5-year-old young man was willing to let them kill him for the sake of the village. He wouldn't have any of that as long as he lived. Anbu. A team of 4 appeared before him: cat, dog, lizard and crow. Yugao Azuki, Kakashi Hatake, Genma Shiranui and finally a new recruit that was quickly rising through the ranks, Itachi Uchiha. Yes sir. A mob is about to attack Naruto Uzumaki. You are to make sure he survives. He is on top of the 4th's head on the Hokage mountain. Kill every civilian if needed to ensure his survival. The cycle changes tonight. He shouted the last bit whilst sounding incredibly sad. Hi Hokage-sama, they said in unison. The Hokage slumped back into his chair watching through the crystal ball whilst trying to justify his lack of intervention within the boy's life. What have I done? Sure, I treat him like he's my own grandchild, but it's not enough. I'm sorry, Minato. The Hokage watched as Naruto waited. His Anbu would arrive soon, but it would be too late. This year everything changes. Naruto waited on top of the 4th's head for the mob to reach him. His face impassive suddenly changed to an unmatched smile that was hard to tell if faked, signifying his mask was in position. They arrived shouting at him. That's when he realized his mistake. Past birthdays he would lead them on a chase to thin the mob, but this year, he was stuck in between a cliff and an angry mob. He was screwed. Looks like I'm coming to you sooner than expected, San. Hi, do you want to play with me? He said, acting like an idiot, hoping they would feel sorry for him and not attack. Unfortunately, this was not to be. No, demon. You will die tonight, for our family and for the Yondaime. He shouted, and thus the beating began, worse than usual. He felt several ribs crack as they kicked him. He spat up a little blood whilst the Sandyame watched appalled by his village. He couldn't help but wonder where his Anbu were. It was too late. A villager decided he was going to be the one to end the demon, but to do so he was going to be pushed off the cliff. With no ninja training, this was a sure death for anyone. The Sandyame visibly shouted in anger as he watched his surrogate grandson fall to his death. On his way down, Naruto already accepted his fate. He could see the Anbu team arriving on scene to see him fall down, but it was too late. They couldn't possibly reach him in time to save him. He was going to die, and the Kyuubi's wrath would be brought upon these fools when the seal breaks. He smiled in the face of death, but that didn't mean he wasn't scared. No, he was petrified. Time seemed to slow down as his vision became clearer but changed to black and white. He thought of the irony of this situation. Just as he was about to die, something happened to hasten his perception of time so he could spend longer falling to his death. Kami must hate me. He closed his eyes again only to feel pain as he hit the ground. He was blacking out when he heard his name being called by a silver-haired Anbu. He closed his eyes for what he thought was the last time. Inside his seal, Abiju was silently weeping for the prone form of the boy in front of him, cursing Madara for forcing her to attack and get sealed into this boy, forcing upon him this life. Then something happened. Two eyes opened floating in the sky, showing a pair of two Tomoe Sharingan blazed to life, and he visibly flinched before they shut themselves again. The Biju looked down at his contained and laughed. He would live, he was meant for greatness, and this would be the first step. Meanwhile, Kakashi was rushing the poor boy to hospital whilst his team was slaughtering the civilians. Each of his team was selected for this boy's guard because they all knew who he was and had some ties to his father or mother. Kakashi was his father's student, Genma was part of his father's personal guard, Yugao was his mother's student, a Kenjutsu prodigy, and finally Itachi was just smart enough to figure out who the boy was and treat him like a brother. Oh, the irony that would be coming his way. Kakashi arrived at the hospital with the broken boy in his arms, panting, "I need a doctor," he shouted. Each came, but when they saw the boy they left until Kakashi grabbed on by the neck and threatened him. "I don't care if you don't like him, you will heal him, and so God help me if he dies you will spend the rest of your life in a wheelchair being fed through a straw by your family." The doctor hurriedly agreed to heal the boy. After all, everyone knew who this Anbu was. What happened to him? He got chucked off a cliff. Even though the doctor hated the boy, even he felt that was cruel and visibly recoiled at the answer. "You're joking." No. Running a diagnostic jutsu on the boy to check his injuries, he was amazed that the boy was still alive. He has several broken bones and a fractured skull, not to mention internal bleeding and signs of a lot more that was recently healed. "Do what you can for him and be quick about it," he snapped whilst thanking Kami that the demon healed most of his container's wounds. As he was healing the boy, the Sandyame Hokage rushed through the door and had an angered look on his face. "Kakashi, what the hell kept you from getting there in time? You left 5 minutes before it happened. You're a ninja for Kami's sakes." "Sir, my team was held up by a team of 20 ninja that had blank face masks like Anbu. All are dead. We didn't have time to take a prisoner." "Danzo. He will pay for this. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but he will pay." "How is the boy?" "He is healing at an extraordinary rate even for him. I don't know why." "No use explaining why. He is unpredictable and most likely has nothing to do with it, but no point looking a gift horse in the mouth." "Kakashi, I need to talk to you outside. Doctor, keep healing him and don't stop." Kakashi followed his leader outside into the hall where he took his time to explain, obviously under a silencing barrier, what Naruto had said earlier. Kakashi was obviously shaken by the boy and his genius, but visibly disturbed when he was told how Naruto smiled in the face of death. No one, not even veteran Anbu operatives, smile looking death in the eyes. It's just not natural. Whilst they were discussing this, a shockwave of chakra shot out of Naruto, covering him in the potent chakra. Inside the seal, Naruto was beginning to stir when he realized he felt no pain and groaned as he tried to move his stiff muscles. He opened his eyes and looked up, but almost immediately noticed he was in a sewer. Great, the Shinigami's stomach is a sewer, who would have thought? He heard laughing from behind him and turned around to see a giant nine-tailed fox. They stared at each other for a couple of minutes before Naruto broke the silence. "Sup? This and that. Some interesting things recently though. So, I can't be dead since you're here, which would most likely mean I was hurt so badly that I entered the seal on my stomach with my consciousness." "Pretty much. At least you aren't stupid." "Thanks, I guess. So anyway, I can change this dreary place to something a bit more hospitable." The Kyuubi just shrugged whilst watching his container closely. In truth, he knew how to change it. Seriously, what 1,000-year-old demon didn't? But this was a test for him. Naruto just sighed whilst concentrating. he was going to take a shot in the dark here. Immediately the sewer was replaced by a valley with long grass and a forest on the horizon, a lake off to the right whilst a house in the center with a park bench in the garden. Naruto just smirked. That's better. He looked at the wide-eyed Kyuubi whilst snickering to himself and thought about something. If I somehow let you out of the cage, you aren't going to try to eat me or something, right? Kyuubi just stared at him for a minute before nodding, not trusting himself to answer. Cool. And just like that the cage was gone whilst a collar with a paper tag which was the seal was in its place. There you go. I know living in me hasn't been the best, but you might as well enjoy what you can. That's it. No questions. Not wanting to know why I attacked or anything. Not even your parents. Why did you attack? And I know about my father. I mean seriously. Who the fuck doesn't notice a look-alike? But you can tell me about my mother if you want. Long story short, I was forced to attack after being ripped out of my previous container, who happens to be one of your mothers, and she died obviously because of the birthing but also because me being ripped out of her. I was forced to attack by Madara Uchiha, somehow still alive, but how I don't know. Well, that sucks. Wait, hold the phone, did you say mothers as in plural as in I have two? How the fuck did that happen? Well, considering you're quite smart, I'll skip the bird and the bees and go straight to it. Having me and your mother with a seal that wasn't the correct type for her because it was rushed when I was being transferred to her from the previous container. Mito Uzumaki made her for a better choice of words, barren. Will that happen to me? Will I be able to have kids when I'm older? Yes, your seal was also rushed, but it was designed with a lot of time beforehand. When your father found out she was pregnant, he always looked ahead in these types of things. Smart man. Okay, carry on. Well, you see, it goes like this. Just because she couldn't conceive a child didn't mean she couldn't give birth to one. Makoto Uchiha, your mother's best friend, donated an egg and it was implanted within Kushina. Your parents went and got down and dirty, and here you are. The beast smirked at his disgusted face of his parents having. So which one is my real mother? I would say both. One allowed conception whilst the other allowed birth. You also have a few perks from this, believe it or not. Like, well, first, earlier on tonight when you noticed time slowed down, it wasn't Kami messing with you, it was your Sharingan awaking. Cool. He screamed like his masked self. Yes, however, a combination of having me in you and betrayal from the village left you with an advanced form called the Mangekyo Sharingan, but beware, each time you use this you will lose a portion of your eyesight until you are truly blind. Also cool but not cool at the same time. Don't worry. Eventually your half-brother Itachi will awaken his, and then you swap eyes and boom, you will never go blind and it will use less chakra. How do you know so much about this? I kind of created it a couple 100 years ago when Madara Tem woke me from my sleep. He was a Hyuga branch member and wanted to be free of his curse seal. At the time I was still a bit groggy from sleep and thought, hey, what the hell, and used my chakra to mutate the Byakugan into the Sharingan. Sort of made a small mistake though when I mutated it too much and it awakened a curse for the dojutsu. Well, that's good and bad. Good. I got an awesome dojutsu. Bad that I'm cursed. Not really. Having my chakra go through your eyes when I was healing you earlier sort of made it disappear. Anyway, the curse is simple. When one of them watched someone they love get hurt, they will do anything for power to help that person survive, hence they are rather known as power hungry. God damn it, that means Makoto-ka and Itachi are going to be power hungry. Not really, I've seen few that rise above the curse and they both are two of them. By the way, when you have kids, even if it's with another Uchiha, your DNA will overwrite theirs, ending the curse. Okay, anyway, what's your name? I mean, it can't be Kyuubi. Kyuubi looked slightly offended at this and sighed. Hikari. So you're a chick? Yes. She expected him to burst out laughing here and gave him an odd look when he did no such thing. What? Aren't you going to laugh? No. Why? Why should I? Every time I've ever told anyone my name and or gender, they laughed at me. Why? I know plenty of powerful women. Who? The kunoichi of this village for one. Well, not the fangirls, but you get the idea. Touché. Anyway, I'm going to take a nap under that tree where the sunlight is shining just perfectly because this is my mind, and maybe wake up in the hospital later and see one of my mothers after that. Hikari just nodded and left him to his own devices. Parents. Thinking. Biju, summon talk. Biju, summon think. Jutsu. Naruto was laying in his hospital bed while a squad of Anbu walked into the room with the Hokage, Crow. Yes, sir. Please get your mother. It's time for some truths to come out. Itachi raised an eyebrow from behind his mask and nodded before shunshining home to pick up his mother. 20 seconds later, she was there with Itachi looking rather annoyed. Crow, did you wait for your mother or did you grab her and shunshin here? Itachi kept very quiet and shrunk into the corner under his mother's gaze. What can I do for you, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen and Makoto had always gotten on well because unlike most Uchiha, she wasn't born with the holier-than-thou attitude of the rest of the clan, and they both knew Minato and Kushina, which was also a plus. Makoto was a 29-year-old woman who didn't look a day over 20. She was 5 feet 7, quite tall for women nowadays, wore a battle kimono because while she was a retired shinobi she kept up with her training and was ready for anything, and had perky C-cup with long purple hair and coal-black eyes, the eyes of an Uchiha. It's time for some truth to come out. Anbu, keep guard of this room, no one is to come in. Itachi, stay and remove your mask. All the Anbu nodded and did as they were told before Itachi removed his mask. Putting up a silencing barrier, he took a deep breath and decided to start. Makoto, what I'm about to tell you is going to make you hate me, but it was in Minato's will the same as Kushina's. Naruto is your son. Wide eyes, an immediate reaction. This was big, this was huge. This boy here who the villagers vilified and abused physically and physiologically was her son and Itachi's brother. How? Well, remember when Kushina asked you for that favor when she was trying to have a kid? Well, Naruto is that child. You told me he died. As I said, it is in their wills to tell you this. I wasn't meant to tell you until he was either Chunin or if by chance he unlocked your bloodline, but with his eyes blue instead of black we thought that would never happen. Why are you telling me now? Well, I heard him earlier today sitting on top of his father's head. He knows everything except who his mothers are. He figured it out himself. He has his father's genius but acts like a fool to let the villagers have an outlet. Of course, I didn't know this until tonight when the villagers cornered him on the mountain and violently beat him before chucking him off the cliff. That's not the most disturbing bit of it. He actually smiled as he was falling, like someone who didn't care. She was now in tears. What was technically her son as well as Kushina's was being beaten like this, she never knew. She had tried to adopt this boy several times because she saw him on the streets and her motherly instincts kicked in for some reason, but now she knew why. I heard the wisest saying I've ever heard from a civilian from him earlier today. He was sitting on the mountain looking up at the stars talking to his father. He talked about how his father thrust this burden upon him, yet how he forgave him, and then it came. He said something I will never forget. I endure because no one else would. I live because I endure, and I endure to protect my precious people. It is a vicious cycle that I'm not sure will ever end, but it must. Itachi was normally a pacifist, not really shinobi material, but he knew how to kill. He was trained to kill. He was trained to be a weapon for his clan, but today he found out he had a little brother and was truly happy. This saying, though, it made him shed a tear for the first time in years. His little brother was already so strong enough to endure his life alone without him or his mother. Makoto openly cried and hugged the sleeping form of Naruto whilst crying into his chest. This continued for another 10 minutes until Naruto began to stir. Makoto jumped off her newly found son and watched him begin to wake until he started screaming. He opened his eyes to show the world his two Tomoe Sharingan, earning a gasp from the crowd, but he wasn't done. His Sharingan morphed into something rarely seen within the Uchiha clan, a Mangekyo Sharingan, a three-pointed triangle which curved inwards whilst the center of the triangle merged into a hexagon around a pupil. After a few minutes of screaming and being held down, he stopped and breathed a sigh of relief as the pain disappeared. He looked around the room and saw one of his Anbu guards with a strange woman that he has never met, but also the Hokage. He stared at them for a minute before saying, "Sup?" They were all still staring at his new eyes and ignored him. "Why are you staring at me?" Ignored still, he started to get annoyed. "Quit it." He saw them staring at him still and they seemed to be looking at his eyes. He felt some chakra drain, which meant his Sharingan was active, so he cut the chakra and everyone suddenly snapped back to attention. Makoto rushed him and hugged him tightly, hoping that he was real. She squeezed until he let out a pained yelp and suddenly let go, fearing she might hurt her son. "Not that I don't appreciate the hug, but who are you? I know Itachi from behind the mask, even if he doesn't think I do, in the Hokage, but you." She took a deep breath and said, "I'm your mother." He promptly fainted. They all laughed. 5 minutes later and he was back up and was rubbing his head. "I could have sworn you said you were my mother." "I did. So you must be Makoto Uchiha." They all looked surprised by this. "Yes. How did you know?" Well, Kyuubi could see Kushina through the seal when she asked for your favor, and I also have the Sharingan and Mangekyo. By the way, did you know my mindscape was a sewer? That just wasn't cool. They all stared at him blankly. "What? How long have you known about me?" "Since I got knocked the fuck out and met Kyuubi. Nice girl once you get past the 50 feet tall thing." His stomach growled and he sighed. "She's moaning about being called tall." He grinned as he continued, "About Kyuubi being sealed inside me. And my father. Since I was 3. They were all shocked. "How?" was the only word they got out. "Let's start from left to right here. From being called a demon to my face and my birthday, not to mention the big ass seal on my stomach when I mold chakra, it was pretty easy to figure out, and from there I looked in the mirror and saw the resemblance, not to mention what kind of father takes someone else's kid whilst not giving up his own. Now Gigi, I want my inheritance. This includes all scrolls, house and money, because I'm actually tired of pretending to be a god-forsaken idiot. It's only taken 2 years for them to almost kill me, so I'm going to better protect myself." He raised an eyebrow but nodded with one question: "Since when can you mold chakra?" "Somewhere around my 3rd birthday I was being chased by the biggest mob to date and I was sure I was going to die, but for some reason I started to feel warm and running quicker. I paid no attention to it at the time. Later I discovered I unlocked and molded my chakra towards my feet to help me run faster, and boom. You know I can't adopt you, right, Naruto?" Makoto said, much to the shock of both Itachi and the Hokage. "I know, a Jinchuriki from a clan would overpower said clan, but also I get the feeling your husband wouldn't be too happy." She nodded. "Fugaku never liked Minato or Kushina. He was a candidate for 4th Hokage along with Orochimaru. If I adopted you he would use you as a weapon, but I can help you. Whilst I can't make up for the years I wasn't a mother, I can try to be there for the future." He smiled. That was all he wanted. Itachi. "Yes, Ka-san. You're on Naruto's personal guard, right?" "Hi, Ka-san. You're to train him from now on. Make sure he gets used to his Sharingan, but don't use the Mangekyo. Speaking of which, how do you have it? Would you believe me if a couple 100 years ago Madara Uchiha was a Hyuga and disturbed Kyuubi's sleep, begging for her to mutate his eyes? Well, he did, and with her sealed inside me combined with the feeling of betrayal I had earlier, activated it. Also, I don't have the dojutsu curse that the rest of the Uchiha have, nor do you or Itachi. She made a mistake when mutating his eyes or something and cursed the dojutsu. The people who see a friend hurt or in danger become power hungry to help said friend. I don't have it because she removed it, and she said something about a 1 in 100 chance of not having the curse in your eyes, so congratulations. I'm not sure if you have any brothers or sisters. Itachi said they might have it, sorry." Itachi just shook his head and replied, "I have an adopted brother. Of course he thinks he is real and I treat him like my real brother, but he is my cousin. His parents died in the Kyuubi attack, so mother took him in." Naruto nodded and smiled at his mother, a true smile, and couldn't help smile in return. "Anyway, get him physically fit before taijutsu training. Make sure he learns our style but also his father's, which I'm sure is part of his inheritance. Teach him a few basic jutsu for each element and make sure he understands that the Sharingan is only a tool, not a crutch. No son of mine is going to be dependent like that. Check if he is a genjutsu type as well, Itachi. If so, I will leave that training up to you because I'm not that type of shinobi and you are. Itachi nodded. All this time they didn't know that the Hokage had sent a shadow clone to his office except Naruto, who caught the hand seal. It came back through the door with a scroll. Naruto blinked. Old man, I think I might have done something. He raised an eyebrow and noticed his Sharingan was active by accident. My chakra control isn't the best at the moment due to my huge amount, so I kept my Sharingan active to see if I can better it, and I might have caught your hand seal for that jutsu. It feels weird, like I know it. Hiruzen nodded sagely. That's fine, you copied it with your Sharingan, one of the perks of it. I was going to give it to Itachi to teach you anyway with your high chakra capacity and all. He nodded and turned off his Sharingan. I don't like this, it will mean I copy from anyone and everyone. I don't want to copy from teammates and allies. Everyone present smiled. He was already getting the idea without them explaining it. That's my boy, Makoto said in a proud voice. Copying from allies without permission can be a pain, but he gave you permission, so don't worry. Hiruzen was rather proud of the boy at the moment despite what had happened recently. He handed Naruto the scroll and explained that he needed to bite his thumb and wipe blood over the seal to open the scroll. It was his inheritance from his father and Kushina. Opening the scroll, the first thing that dropped out was a letter. He picked it up and began reading out loud. Naruto, my son, how I am sad whilst writing this letter. Your mother is currently in labor trying her best to bring you into this world whilst the Kyuubi no Kitsune is on a collision course with Konoha. The fox was sealed inside your mother, but during the childbirth someone attacked and ripped it out of the seal. Instead of running like it should have, it started to attack, which leads me to believe it was being controlled. I'm going to seal it into you. Yiso not getting Father of the Year award anytime soon. A few teardrops stained the paper here. You may hate me, but know that I love you. I leave to you several things. My house, which is protected by so many seals it makes the Hokage's vault look like a drawer with a lock for one. Inside you will find my jutsu library. Hiraishin and my Rasengan are hidden in there somewhere. I'm not making it easy for you. You will not grow up spoiled, but on the plus side I did apply resistance seals to you as you were just born and made them automatically adjust, so they should be rather high at the moment. Ask the Hokage how to disengage them. My bank account details are with the Hokage, which should be Sarutobi at the moment. Your godfather is Jiraiya of the Sennin. I leave one last thing to you, my son. A summoning contract, the Crow contract. They are perfect messengers and are good at ambushing enemy. Sign it, and when Jiraiya arrives, he should have been with you all along, but let's be realistic here. Sign the Gamma contract and they will allow you to summon both as long as the bosses agree. Also kick your godfather in the nuts for me. Love your horrible father, who happens to be the most happy man in the world at the moment because you were just born. Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto smiled and laughed at his father's antics even though he was about to die. Before anyone could comment on the letter, another one dropped out. Hi, me again. Just because I am finished leaving you stuff doesn't mean your mother hasn't left you anything. She is too weak to write you a letter at the moment, so I'm sealing the stuff for her and writing this quickly. She left you 2 chakra sabers that she had made with Uzu metal for you. No time to explain what Uzu metal is, so ask the Hokage. In the scroll is a kenjutsu style for dual sabers. If you need any help, ask Kakashi Hatake. He was my student and had a chakra saber from his father known as the White Fang. He might be rusty, but it will help you learn. Once again, we both love you and enjoy your life. Your mother tells me to tell you to find a nice girl to settle down with and enjoy the pleasures of a family, and she's sorry. Love your parents. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. Everyone was silent for a moment before Makoto commented, "That's just like Minato, humor in the face of death." She smiled. "Old man, how long am I in hospital for? You're free to go. You were healed at a miraculous rate even for you, so you're all healed. I want to check out my new house, will you? Makoto-ka and Itachi ni come with me." Makoto hugged him into her chest and smiled at being called mother, whilst Itachi kept his now stoic demeanor, but on the inside he was happy, finally a proper brother. He wasn't going to stop acting like a brother towards Sasuke because that was they were in his eyes, but with Naruto it was actual blood. All three nodded and he jumped out of bed, not noticing he was only in his boxers. He heard snickering and saw Itachi in the corner and a red-faced Makoto. He looked down and saw he was in his boxers and just smacked his head. Well, this is awkward. He just carried right on getting dressed, not really caring he was too smart to be embarrassed by something as small as this. He went over to the scroll and looked in the slot named keys and channeled a bit of chakra into it, and out came a set of keys and a map to his new home. Appears it's behind the Hokage's monument in the forest away from town. That's good for me, I do like some privacy. Itachi nodded and grabbed his new little brother and mother and Shunshin to the top of the Hokage's monument and was joined a second later by Hiruzen. Map says it's protected by genjutsu seals. Only he could find it unless you know where to go beforehand. He walked off into the distance with them following him and carried on down a path into what looked like a cave. This is a genjutsu seal to look like a cave. Whatever you do, walk straight forward even if it's dark and you will arrive past the seals. No one could see, but each nodded their heads and continued straight, soon walking through what seemed like a dead end of the cave. When they reached the end, they come upon a wooden gate that appeared normal but was covered in seals and an 11 feet high brick wall that looked like it was built yesterday. Naruto whistled. Impressive gate. They nodded, agreeing with him. He looked at the map for instructions and did as it said. I have to cut my hand on the gate and then apply chakra to the swirl by the gate to change its locking feature to my chakra signature. They heard a click, and the gate opened, revealing a rather well-kept garden. Well, this is odd. Anyone been here? None have been here since Minato. I didn't even know where it was. He chuckled. He was a secretive bastard. Tell me about it. I wonder why the garden looks so kept. Probably got too lazy and invented some seal to preserve the garden in some way. I wonder if the training grounds are like that. Let's hope so, Itachi said, thinking about the fun he was going to have torturing his little brother. Naruto shivered for some reason. He couldn't tell, but he thought it was something to do with the smirk and gleam in Itachi's eyes. Oh boy, I'm screwed. Exploring the rest of the house, they noticed that it was all rather clean and well kept. It was a 2-story house but had several bedrooms, a living and dining area with an outside onsen for the summer and a downstairs bathroom. One of the bedrooms was converted to a small armory. Naruto openly gawked at his new home. It was better than any he had lived in before. He smiled at the portrait in the hallway of a several months pregnant Kushina and Minato with his arm wrapped around her protectively. The others came up behind him and smiled as well. They went outside to check the training grounds outback and found a large field that was covered with several dummies and logs, all with the same seals as before. Somehow I think I'm going to like it here. Makoto and Itachi smiled. It was getting pretty late now, about 11 at night, and after all the excitement today they were all pretty tired. I think I'm going to crash on some bed upstairs. You're welcome to stay if you want. Sorry Sochi, I can't, I need to get back to the house so Fugaku doesn't moan. Ototo, I have Anbu duty to finish. The Hokage has granted me leave starting tomorrow. I will be here with you to train you away from prying eyes, and mother can check on us when she wants, same in the Hokage. Okay Ni-san. Naruto didn't notice Itachi's lips curve into a small smile, and Makoto openly smiled at the exchange. She knew how Itachi always wanted a little brother, but she didn't want another child with Fugaku for him to turn into a weapon or a Min Fugaku, which Sasuke was becoming. Their marriage was slowly falling apart. Fair enough, it was an arranged marriage to help the family become stronger, and she was technically the clan head but didn't like the clan head business. She would take back the clan head seat one of these days and divorce that idiot. We'll be going then. Get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be fun. Itachi walked off with a small evil laugh whilst the others shuddered. That laugh meant pain, as Naruto was going to find out tomorrow. Why do I suddenly feel the need to write a will? They both shook their heads. No idea Sochi, Naruto. Before they left, Makoto turned round and gave him a hug and said, I will give Itachi some cookies to give you tomorrow, since I doubt you can cook, and it will help tide you over till I come round in the evening helping you learn to cook. Hi Ka-san. Good boy. She turned and left, leaving a very tired Naruto who just walked upstairs and fell on his parents' bed fast asleep, all the while being watched over from above by smiling figures. In heaven, Kushina, our son is finally happy. Baka, he was sad because of you. Blame Madara Tem. She smacked him on the back of the head and smiled. Her son had a mother, and although it was not her, it was her best friend who technically counted as his mother. It was enough to make her happy. I don't know how I feel about earlier on the mountain, but I think he will get over it now. The question is, will the villagers? Nope. The next day, 7 o'clock. Naruto was sleeping peacefully, fully dressed after yesterday, when he felt someone drop something on him and hit him in the stomach. He jumped up straight away, gasping for air that was knocked out of his lungs. He looked towards the attacker, ready to strike back, but calmed down once he saw the amused look of Itachi in Anbu gear without his mask. Hello Odoto. Hello Ni-san. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Naruto got wide eyes. What in Kami's name made you wake me up at this time? Still amused, he responded, well, I thought I would let you lay in. He got no response, and Naruto just looked down at what hit him. It was a set of chakra weights bands that went round his wrists and adjusted the weight depending on the amount of chakra one puts through them. He raised an eyebrow. Seeing the unasked question, Itachi decided to elaborate. Just because you have had a resistance seal on you since birth is no reason to not try harder. Lesson 1. There is always someone better than you, so never stop training. He nodded and placed the weights on each wrist and leg. Good, now don't run chakra through them yet and follow me. He nodded once again and followed him out back to a big tree. Lesson 2. Power is nothing without control. You have raw power with your amount of chakra but no control. Learn control. Itachi seemed to grin. How? His grin threatened to split his face at this point in time. Climb this tree without your hands. Naruto stood there for a moment before thinking about what he was asked to do. It was obviously a chakra control exercise meant for larger chakra users such as himself, but he had to climb it without his hands, and if it involved chakra, then he guessed it used chakra to stick to the surface. Once asking Itachi if that was how it was done, he smiled, proud of his little brother. It seemed genius ran in his mother's side of the family. Naruto walked up to the tree and lay on the floor with his feet touching the tree. Itachi raised an eyebrow and watched his brother focus chakra to his feet by using the ram hand seal and step about a foot off the ground, and asked Itachi to time him for 5 minutes. He nodded. 5 minutes later, Itachi called for him to stop and asked what he had just done. His response was, I focused chakra to my feet to get a feel to how much it takes to stick to the tree for a period of time, so when I go to try again it should let me get quite far up the tree. Itachi blinked a couple of times before walking up to the tree and banging his head, muttering, Baka, 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 over and over again. Naruto just laughed. He motioned for Naruto to continue what he was doing before and walked up to the tree before walking 3/4 up the tree with a wide-eyed Itachi watching. That shouldn't be possible for him with that much chakra. Damn, when I did this it took 3 days to learn. Well fuck. Naruto, come down here. Naruto walked over to his brother and asked what he wanted. That jutsu you copied yesterday was called Shadow Clone. It is a physical clone with a chakra network and is very good for people with high amounts of chakra because they can train with them. The downside is that they dispel with one punch. Make as many as you can so I can see how many there are. Inside his seal, Hikari was just waking up and heard the conversation via their connection and laughed. This was going to be funny. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The field was covered, actually covered in smoke, and Itachi couldn't believe his eyes. There had to be hundreds. 2 words summed up his expression. Holy shit. What? This is a kinjutsu because the chakra needed for it and you just made around 300 and are not winded at all. I'm just special. Everything they learn you learn, however never dispel them all at once. You will get brain damage that not even Kyuubi can fix. Yes sir. He mock saluted. Get working. I want tree walking and water walking done by the end of the day. Dispel 10 clones every 20 minutes to advance the clones. When complete, come find me for water walking. The clones went about their business whilst Itachi sat watching his little brother's army. He was so proud of him already. He would make him strong enough to survive the world. 40 minutes later and 260 clones left. The original Naruto walked over to his brother. Finished, and I have 260 clones left. Follow me for water walking. He walked away to a small pond and watched his brother walk out onto the water. Water walking is a constant stream of chakra to your feet all the time, but it has to be ready to change at a moment's notice if you are on a moving river. Naruto nodded and asked his brother to stay there for a second. He agreed and watched as Naruto quickly activated his Sharingan and looked at his feet, smiled and deactivated it. He jumped on the water and fell in up to his shins. His brother was once again surprised and asked what he did this time. The Sharingan is a tool in a ninja's arsenal. We use tools as and when we need them. I watched your chakra flow to your feet and adjusted it to my size and height to get a head start. Itachi smiled. His brother was going to go far. Create one clone and dispel it so the information is distributed to the rest, and follow me, we need to talk. Nodding, he did as asked and then followed his brother into the house. What type of ninja do you want to be? Naruto raised an eyebrow. He was smart, but something like this escaped him. Itachi answered the eyebrow. There are different type of ninja. Examples are ninjutsu specialists or taijutsu specialists and sometimes even genjutsu specialists. Your father was a ninjutsu and fuinjutsu specialist. You will be learning fuinjutsu sometimes, so don't worry. Naruto nodded, about to answer when his eyes glazed over and heard a voice in his head. Naruto, it's Hikari, don't talk out loud, just think. Sup. Chose genjutsu and ninjutsu as primary with taijutsu and fuinjutsu as secondary. Why? I'm a fox. We are naturally good at genjutsu and I gave you a tiny present when you were knocked out yesterday. Call it a sorry for your life so far. What kind of present? The kind that will make you exceptional at genjutsu even though you have cage level reserves, although you have to use your eyes. If you get used to using them you should be able to cast them without your Sharingan, also ninjutsu, because let's face it, you're a juggernaut with your reserves which will only grow with time. Fine. He looked at a worried Itachi and spoke. Sorry, Kyuubi was speaking to me. It's okay, what did she say? She said that she gave me a gift as a sorry for my life so far. I should be a great genjutsu user with the Sharingan and eventually without, but she told me to focus on ninjutsu and genjutsu but also on taijutsu, just not as much as the first two. I kind of like the idea of being a well-rounded shinobi like this. Itachi dumbly nodded with a shiver of excitement. His little broth, the next genjutsu prodigy after him, but also the reserves to blatantly spam ninjutsu all day long. Oh, his enemies were screwed. The reason I have you practicing chakra control so early is because the weights. I don't want you trying to put a little chakra in and end up wearing 2 tons, that wouldn't be funny. Your clones are going to practice chakra control for the rest of the day, and this will happen for the next month just to get your control up to par, but whilst they do that you're going to work out to get your body ready for taijutsu. Oh, lesson number 3. Ninjutsu and genjutsu are useless unless you have the body to dodge and pursue enemies, which is where practicing taijutsu comes in. Naruto nodded and Itachi pulled out a scroll with his training regime and smiled evilly. It read, 5 o'clock to 6 a.m., wake up, shower and breakfast. 6 o'clock to 7 a.m., warm up laps around the compound, send out 300 clones for chakra control. 7 o'clock to 12 p.m., physical workout, 250 push-ups, sit-ups, crunches and 5 laps round the compound. Repeat 7 to 12 until time is up. 12 p.m. to 1 p.m., lunchtime, no ramen. 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., strategy games such as Shugi with brother and reading history books where said strategies were implemented and how they worked and if they were effective at the time for the situation. 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. cooking class with Ka-san. 5 p.m., dispel clones. 5 p.m. to 6 p.m., dinner. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. relax and or sleep depending on how tired you are. He looked up from the scroll and saw an evil gleam in his eye. Has anyone ever told you that when you are about to train me you get an evil gleam in your eye that screams torture? Nope. Well, you do. Well, leave your clones working. We are going to get rid of the god-awful jumpsuit of yours and get you some real clothes. Itachi pulled out a scroll and unsealed his mask and placed it on his head. You came dressed in Anbu gear to take me clothes shopping. That's pretty smart. You aren't the only genius around here. Wise ass, he muttered only to hear a snort of amusement from his brother as they left the compound and started towards town. It was early. Around 8:30 and shinobi and civilian alike were just starting to wake. They wouldn't openly glare at him because of the Anbu with him, but they had heard rumors stating that he had been killed yesterday by being chucked off the Hokage monument. Walking into a shinobi-only store with Itachi in his Anbu gear, the shop owner greeted them. "Ah, Crow-san, Hokage-sama said you would be coming round today sometime. I take it that you are here for this young man." Crow nodded and responded in a monotone voice of his Anbu counterpart. "Yes, Naruto needs some new clothes, maybe a few sets of kunai and shuriken as well." "Well, knock yourselves out. We aren't that busy in the morning, so there shouldn't be any judgmental shinobi around." He winked at Naruto and used air quotes for the word judgmental. Naruto smiled and nodded whilst walking into the shinobi clothing sector. He came back 5 minutes later wearing white ba trousers with a kunai pouch on his right leg and a standard issue hip pouch, whilst wearing a mesh tank top with a black zip-up hoodie with orange strips going down the arms. All in all, he looked like a 5-year-old Minato. He had 5 sets of these clothes, not including the hoodie. He had 3 sets of them. He picked up a set of kunai and shuriken with a sealing scroll and went to the checkout. When it came out at a set price, he went to pay and the man said, "No need." The Hokage put it on his tab. He nodded in acceptance and made a mental note to thank the old man later. They spent the rest of the day practicing chakra control and kunai throwing. Itachi left again in the evening, but not without leaving him a bowl of cookies from their mother, obviously with one missing. Training. Thinking. Biju, summon talk. Biju, summon think. Jutsu. Naruto was quite content with his new life within the past few days. He had family, he had met the Kyuubi and was on relatively good terms with her, well, good terms as you can get with a giant fox stuck in your gut, and he got to spend time with his older brother, but to top it all off, he was finally learning right, like he should have been from an early age. He was currently having a rather nice dream about ramen. Yes, although he acted like an idiot with a ramen addiction, he actually liked the food, just not all the time, but it was one of his favorite foods, considering with the civilians not allowing him to shop at their establishments that he couldn't taste variety. His dream was suddenly called to a halt when he felt someone enter his bedroom. He reacted on his newly found instincts that were bashed into his skull by Itachi, and using his right hand he grabbed the person's wrists whilst with the left hand grabbed a kunai that he now slept with and poised to strike the intruder's throat with the kunai. He stopped an inch from the person to note an amused look on his older brother's face. "Ga Itachi." Taking a note out of his younger brother's book, he replied simply, "Sup. God damn, I could have hurt you." A snort from Itachi was all he got in reply, showing how little he knew. For the past 2 weeks Itachi had been training Naruto. He kept the training schedule the same but allotted a small period of time to teach him henge so he could buy produce from civilian shops without being chucked out of overpriced. Of course the stupid civilians couldn't tell the difference, but the ninja gave him some rather amused looks of respect for being able to use henge at his age. Naruto soon learned that Itachi was a nice person but cold to people he didn't know or if he was on a mission. To his family, however, he would protect them to the best of his ability. Naruto had come to respect that about the older boy. Makoto came round every day and helped him learn how to cook, and like everything else he took to it rather quickly, learning all the basics of cooking and a balanced diet for growth, which was also important towards his taijutsu training. She had stayed at his house for a full day watching her newfound son train, and she couldn't be more proud. Not only did he understand what she and Itachi were trying to say about ninja who specialize, but also understood that his Sharingan did not mean instant victory like most of her clan came to think. No, he practiced whatever he learnt. Naruto soon found that he enjoyed life more than before. His body was quickly becoming quite fit for his age, and if he took after his father, which it was quite clear that he did, then it would mean that the Hidden Leaf village would soon have another speed demon on their hands. She was currently watching her son meditate to calm down after a stressful day of training. Everyone had a way to keep stress to a minimum within the shinobi careers. Kakashi had his porn book, Guy had his patented flames of youth, Asuma and Hiruzen smokes, and she doted on her family as much as possible. She just had an idea about how he could keep stress to a minimum and smirked whilst calling her eldest over to speak to her. Itachi, what do you think of Naruto taking up pranking? Say what? Well, Kushina and Minato were both pranksters, and I think it would be good for him to train in stealth early on, not to mention that it would help him have an outlet against the village whilst being constructive and advancing his training. I think it's a good idea as long as his orange jumpsuit comes back out for his pranks. If you can hide in that thing, then you can hide anywhere. Agreed. He will prank people on his time off. Do you think we should tell the Hokage? Quote. Nah, I'm sure he will find out on his own. They both looked at each other and smirked before calling Naruto over to explain the situation. So let me get this straight, you want me to train my stealth by pranking people? Wearing my orange jumpsuit. They both nodded and pretty much instantly regretted because he had a smirk that sent chills up their spines and heard an evil laugh with the sound of thunder behind him. They both had the same thoughts. What have we unleashed? They looked to each other and shrugged before going home and to bed whilst Naruto planned his first prank. A few days later they were all called into the Hokage's office and noticed the Anbu guards were struggling to keep in their laughter. The third Hokage was sat behind his desk in his battle armor. He smiled his grandfatherly smile and welcomed them. What can we do for you today, Hokage-sama? Well, you see, I seem to be having an issue with my Hokage robes, and I thought you could shed some light onto this issue and how it occurred. They both nodded before he got up from his desk and led them to the cupboard in the corner of the room. Opening the cupboard, you could clearly see his normal Hokage robe and hat, except they were dyed neon orange. Instantly they burst out laughing, which happened to continue for another 5 minutes before they settled enough to talk to the Hokage. My bad, Itachi said. You're bad, kind of. How so? Shifting slightly on the spot, he sighed. We wanted Naruto to train in stealth, so we told him to go pranking people in his orange jumpsuit without getting caught. Apparently you're his first victim. Do you have any idea what you've unleashed? He is exactly like Minato and Kushina when it comes to this. He won't ever stop. Oh, the paperwork. Both snuck away whilst his was crying anime tears with a sweat drop on the back of their heads. Pranks such as this continued for the rest of his training. 2 weeks later he had set up his title of Prankster from Hell. At the end of his 1-month physical training they stopped for a break whilst discussing what was going to happen next. Your physical training is up for the moment, but that doesn't mean you stop. You will increase your warm-up by double with the now chakra weights, since your control is decent enough to use them without wearing 2 tons instantly. Naruto groaned. If his physical training was up, then what was he going to be doing now? Upon voicing his question, Itachi smiled and said that he was going to teach him a few basic jutsu from each element, but went into explaining elements. Elemental jutsu is a jutsu that is aligned to an element, allowing a person to use it easier. An example of this is most Uchiha have a fire element, which makes it easier to use the Great Fireball as a rite of passage for people within the clan. Some people have 1 or 2 elemental natures. Sometimes if you're lucky you get 3, but I doubt that will happen since it's like a 1 in 1,000 chance. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this as if to say, really? Before we start, tell me, what is the difference between learning a jutsu and mastering one? Naruto took a moment to think. Learning a jutsu was obviously learning the hand seals related to said jutsu and learning how to mold the chakra for it, so mastering the jutsu should have been 1 step above that. He voiced his confusing to his older brother, who smiled. Learning a jutsu is how to perform the jutsu, however on a battlefield if 2 people use the same jutsu with one of them mastering it to the point of not needing all the hand seals for the jutsu, then who would win? The master. Good. So I will show you one jutsu today and you will spend the next week with your shadow clones mastering it to the point that you need less hand seals. To do this you will need to use the jutsu hundreds of times and then feel how the chakra is molded within yourself. Once you know how to mold the chakra with hand seals, cut one seal down and continue until you get to the end of the week and then show me your progress, okay? Naruto smiled and nodded happily. Itachi started him on his first Kaden jutsu, Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu, a simple C-rank jutsu where the user gathers chakra in her lungs and sprays it out of their mouths in either a fireball or a constant stream or fire. And so the week passed with Naruto constantly spamming the C-rank jutsu. This not only helped him master the jutsu to a higher degree than normally, but they found out that his jutsu was stronger than normal, which indicated a strong fire nature. Naruto forcefully expanded his chakra reserves as well due to falling to chakra exhaustion nightly. The good thing about housing Kyuubi was that his chakra recovered quickly and allowed him to get up the next day and do the same. It came to the end of the week and Naruto was training around 8 hours a day with 200 clones. He dropped back from 300 because he wanted more chakra to be distributed to each clone. It was safe to say that Naruto had firmly mastered this jutsu to an extreme degree. Itachi and his mother were sitting on the ground watching him and called him over. Naruto, you spent the past week training with 200 clones on this jutsu. Tell me, how far have you come? Naruto smiled and explained, I got it down from 7 hand seals to 2, but for some reason I couldn't get past the last one. Both older Uchihas smiled at him, a smile that was full of pride. Makoto chose to explain, Naruto, you will never be able to get to the last seal. No one can unless they have an incredibly high affinity for fire, as is the same for any other jutsu. You have mastered this jutsu, so show us how good it is. Naruto smiled and ran over to the dummy that was 25 feet away from his family. He didn't want them getting hurt obviously, and made 2 hand seals and took a deep breath. Exploding from his mouth was a fireball that looked like a miniature sun, 13 feet wide. The dummy never stood a chance. He turned round to see his mother and brother clapping and couldn't help but smile at them. He had worked hard for this and his determination had paid off. Well done, Ototo. I'm proud of you. Arigato ni-san. And what more is that you've just broken a record previously held by me. That jutsu is a rite of passage within the Uchiha clan. I was the youngest to learn it ever at 7 years old. You beat it and now hold the record. Congratulations. Makoto was watching the exchange with pride in her eyes, although she wasn't sure if anyone would ever know that he was her son until he felt ready to tell the world. She was proud of him. This is how the next 2 months went. He learned 4 other jutsu within that time and mastered 2 of them to the same degree except his lightning jutsu. His lightning jutsu was incredibly strong, which led them to believe that he had a primary lightning affinity which a secondary wind and fire, all of which were incredibly strong offensive elements, but he lacked a defensive element. This didn't stop him from learning any defensive techniques with the Sharingan and then practicing them still. An example of an earth technique that he learned was quite simply, Doden, Doryuheiki, which was a standard earth wall that was pushed up from within the air with the user slamming his hands into the ground. This is a B-class jutsu, so no matter what, it took a considerable chunk of chakra for anyone to perform this, but for someone aligned to a different affinity, let alone the opposite of Doden, then it would easily eat twice as much chakra. Naruto continued with this technique with 200 shadow clones for 2 weeks instead of 1 and eventually got it down to the point where he could use it with the normal chakra consumption rate but had to use the full amount of seals necessary. He also learned a water jutsu that required a nearby water source to envelope the user in a barrier of water to protect against a fire technique. The more chakra you pump into it, the more water is used, thus providing a decent defense for most fire techniques. Naruto kept up his physical training as well, and Itachi finally decided he was fit enough to learn some of the Uchiha clan's fighting style known as the Interceptor Fist, which was designed based around the Sharingan and its predictive abilities. Itachi also explained that the Interceptor Fist was also designed to train a Sharingan user's eyesight to advance their Sharingan anywhere from 1 to 3 tomo, which naturally made Naruto happy because although he had his Sharingan activated, he still only had 2 tomo in each eye and was hoping to get to the 3rd tomo sometime next year by the time he started the academy. Itachi explained that even though their mother was a retired jonin, she was quite famous within Konoha and the resounding nations for her use of genjutsu with the Interceptor Fist, allowing her to quickly end her opponents. Because she was a retired Jonin, she wasn't allowed to teach shinobi, but Naruto was a civilian, so she had until he graduated to get him ready with her style. They began by going through the style's basics, footing, movement, and how the style was supposed to be used. The enemy was to attack first and you were to respond quickly thanks to the Sharingan and quickly disable them. Naruto clearly stated that he didn't want to use clones to boost his taijutsu prowess with this style because although they could use muscle memory to advance quickly, he wanted to learn his family styles without what he considered cheating. A week later he had the basics down. He could stand and fight at a basic level of a newly graduated Uchiha genin, which was something for his age. He practiced for hours on end only using shadow clones when he finally got the katas down himself, so it wasn't cheating when learning but keeping his skills fresh. He found the work grueling, and when he almost gave up he continued with the thought of getting better to protect his precious people. He would not give up, not again. Itachi and Makoto were both watching him as per usual and having a small discussion about him. I swear genius runs in your side of the family, Ka-san. Yes, well, he has his father as well who was a genius, so I suppose it's only natural. I would label him a prodigy at the rate he learns, but we both know he wouldn't like to be labeled as such. What do you think of his taijutsu? I think he has learned as much as possible until he grows taller. We forget his is only 5, so he isn't tall enough for the more advanced katas. Genjutsu then. Yes, I think we will work on his genjutsu and chakra control until he is about 8. That should allow enough time for him to grow into a healthy boy with a decent body for necessary for taijutsu. Agreed. Naruto, get over here, Itachi shouted. He walked over taking a drink from a canteen full of water and looked at them. We have decided that until you are older, around 8 or so, your body will not be able to advance within the Uchiha taijutsu style, so we will work for the next 3 years purely on chakra control and genjutsu. Who knows, maybe we can look at the theory behind jutsu creation to give you something to do in your spare time. Okay, I understand. Okay then, but first we need to see the Hokage about a training partner for genjutsu. Makoto and Naruto looked at him like he grew a second head. Sometime later, Naruto, Makoto and Itachi were in the office of the Hokage. Ah, Itachi, how are you today? I'm doing good, sir. Good, good, he said whilst placing a silencing barrier around the room. Itachi, please report to me what has happened in the last 3 months of Naruto's training. For the first month he learned what physical exercise meant in every meaning of the word. He still continues these exercises daily with added weights. We never got round to disabling his resistance seals. We were meant to ask you that today. Ah yes, I was wondering when you were going to ask. Simply focus your chakra on your seal in your stomach and do the genjutsu release to disable them. To re-enable them you have to focus the chakra again and say what level you want. Naruto nodded in understanding. In the next 2 months I taught him 5 ninjutsu, 1 for each element. It seems that he has a lightning as primary with wind and fire as secondary. Each jutsu except ones that weren't of his element have been mastered to use less hand seals. The Doden and Suiden both have been mastered to a degree where they only take the normal amount of chakra but the full amount of hand seals. He has learnt the basics of the Uchiha taijutsu style but can't learn any more until he grows taller, which is why we are here. Turns out Kyuubi gave him a gift and apparently he is going to be a great genjutsu master someday with his eyes, so we need a genjutsu master to give him tips etc. for help. I was thinking of Kurenai, she is a Chunin, right? He nodded in understanding. Yes, I will call her right away to help, but understand if she doesn't agree to keep it secret then she won't be helping. Understood. Anbu, find me Kurenai Yuhi and bring her here. 5 minutes later and in walked a 5 feet 2, 13-year-old version of Kurenai Yuhi, dress and all. Ah, Kurenai-chan, thank you for coming. She walked in nervously whilst eyeing the people in the room. She knew the little boy, of course, who didn't know him, and she knew Itachi, the prodigy of prodigies, but didn't know the woman. Kurenai, this is Naruto Uzumaki, Makoto Uchiha and Itachi Uchiha. Hello. We were wondering if you would like to take part in training a budding genjutsu master for the next 3 years. Of course it would be in the village and it would be secretive and whatnot, so whatever happens is an S-class secret between you, them and me. Understand? Hi Hokage-sama, I would love to help another genjutsu user. Who is it? He smirked in amusement as Naruto stepped forward and waved in a Kakashi-like manner. Sup? Is this a joke? What were you expecting? I don't know, but not a 5-year-old. This 5-year-old will be better than you in genjutsu by the time he is your age. Her mouth fell open. How was that possible? She worked relentlessly on her chakra control. How is that possible? I worked for years to get the control necessary for genjutsu. Shadow clones. What? Oh, never mind, it was classified as a kinjutsu, so I guess you wouldn't know of it. Let's just say my furry little friend gave me a present. She looked at him blankly. She didn't know of the Kyuubi because she actually followed the rules, but she still heard the whispers behind the boy's back. She heard how he was tossed off the Hokage Mountain almost 4 months back and disappeared from public light. The civilians were convinced he was either dead or hospitalized in a coma, but the shinobi knew better. They knew he was biding his time, except for those god-forsaken pranks that never led back to him. Fine. Please meet back here in 2 hours with a bag packed with shinobi gear and clothes for at least a month. You're staying at my new place to help train me. Sorry if you don't like it, but you will change your mind later. He said with a knowing smirk. She nodded and shunshined away. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Okay, next new jutsu to learn and master is the magical ninja teleportation jutsu. Naruto said with barely restrained glee. Everyone in the room gave a soft laugh, but they could understand. It was a really useful jutsu and whoever made it should be praised as highly as the log. 2 hours later, Kurenai arrived via Shunshin with a couple of minutes to spare and noticed everyone was still there. Alright, I'm back now. What? We go to your new home for what may be the next 3 years. Don't worry, it had a lot of privacy for training, which is why we need you to live there with me. I can take care of myself if that is what you're worried about. I cook, clean and tidy up after myself and have for the past 3 months, so I won't get in your way. She nodded. In truth, that was exactly what she was worried about. She didn't care about training the boy, to be honest. If he was going to be as big as they said, then he would get trained, but she didn't want to act like a paternal figure to some 5-year-old. Before leaving, Naruto turned round to the Hokage and gave a little wave. See you in a few weeks, old man. Itachi grabbed Naruto whilst Makoto grabbed Kurenai and Shunshin to the gate of his house. They went through the process of unlocking it and locking it again. Kurenai was amazed at the seals present on the gate and wasn't entirely sure of what to expect. Walking through the gate, she openly gaped at the house and the surrounding area. Kurenai, I will show you to your room and then we can have a nice long chat about some secrets that must remain secret, but you will know them because you need to. Understood. Kurenai followed Naruto upstairs and showed her to the room across from his. She walked past the family portrait and raised an eyebrow at the picture of the 4th Hokage and some woman. Here we go. Join us downstairs in a couple of minutes and we will explain several things and give you a tour of the house. She nodded and proceeded to unpack his stuff whilst Naruto walked downstairs. 5 minutes later she joined them. Now I know you want some answers, so why don't you ask some questions? Who are you? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze Uchiha. Her jaw dropped again. This was the son of the 4th Hokage and was part Uchiha. She was starting to see why he was going to be talented. Why do people call you a demon on the streets? He sighed and ran his hand through his hair. 5 years ago my father defeated the Kyuubi and sealed it inside me. I am a prison and she is the inmate, but they can't seem to understand. Well, that's. Wait, did you say she? He nodded and she thrust her fists in the air screaming girl power. Makoto smirked. Any other questions? Who is your mother? Kushina Uzumaki and Makoto Uchiha. She stared at him for a moment trying to figure out how that was possible. 5 minutes late she gave up and asked. My mother had the Kyuubi in her before me, but her seal was rushed and thus made her barren. Makoto provided an egg which my parents used in her. I am. Does that mean you will have the Sharingan? Already do. He smirked at her and his blue eyes faded into crimson red with 2 tomo in each. She would soon have to pick her jaw off the floor again. That has to be some kind of record for gaining the Sharingan. Don't know. Got it 3 months ago. Why do you want trained in genjutsu? With me having the Kyuubi in me, I have a lot of chakra, and I mean a lot. It will only increase in time. However, Kyuubi felt bad for my life for the first 5 years since I had beatings etc., so she gave me a little gift. Apparently I will be a supreme genjutsu user with enough chakra to spam high-level ninjutsu all day long. I don't need trained in genjutsu at the moment, just how to break them and maybe some help with chakra control or a spar with genjutsu every now and then, because all my genjutsu will be eye-based at the moment until I get better at them. She nodded dumbly. She felt kind of cheated since he was apparently given a gift by Kyuubi, but she understood. Ninja use everything at their disposal. You understand that everything you heard today and from now on in this house is an S-rank secret. Add to that the fact that my lineage is a SS rank secret. If you tell anyone except the Hokage that you are training me or what, and you will be executed. Please don't. You're too pretty to be beheaded. She blushed whilst both Makoto and Itachi raised an eyebrow at their son brother. He was going to be trouble later down the line. Fine. This house is protected by seals for privacy. They were made by my father. The house itself has several bedrooms, bathrooms and outside onsen, training grounds that repair themselves once again due to seals, a library that I'm not allowed to enter until I'm older apparently, and an armory. Feel free to look in the library, but nothing you take leaves this house. I mean that, we have space to practice if you take anything, but it doesn't leave this house under any circumstances. Not even the Hokage is allowed to take things from the library outside. Anything really important will have a blood seal on which you can't open, so don't try. Understood. Okay, then rest for tomorrow we start training. She nodded and headed off towards the onsen to relax whilst the others continued to talk. The massacre. Thinking. Biju, summon talk. Biju, summon think. Jutsu. Magical time skip. 3 years, inbound flashbacks. 3 years have passed since Naruto started training with genjutsu, and what a 3 years they have been. He lived up to his name of a prodigy multiple times, but after explaining how he didn't want to be named a prodigy because things get handed to them, Kurenai came to respect him a little bit more. He picked up genjutsu like a fish to water. With his massive reserves he could break almost any genjutsu and was currently looking for a way to use genjutsu without his eyes. Why rely on something if you're a ninja? His brother and mother always told him that good ninja always have a backup plan and always have more than one way to get something done. Naruto quickly took to this philosophy even though he wasn't a ninja yet, and made several rules that dictated his ninja way of life. These rules would help complete the mission whilst saving his comrades' lives in the field. It only took half a year to become proficient enough to break out of almost all of Kurenai's genjutsu, and although he could break them with his Sharingan, he understood that it was a tool to be used as a last resort. He couldn't let the village know about it yet. After the first half of a year together, it came time for Naruto's birthday again. He stayed inside his house of course, and a few people came round: Kurenai, Makoto, Itachi, Kakashi, Yugao, Genma and the third Hokage. All of these people he knew he could trust with his life and has done on several occasions, especially the Anbu that were with him. He knew they were assigned as his personal guards for the first 5 years of his life. Flashback. Naruto just finished some warm-down exercises from his daily training. Half a year, he mused. Half a year since Kurenai came into my life. It might have been rough at the start, but it got better, and my respect of her has only gone up since I've seen how proficient she is with genjutsu. He grabbed a towel that was on the ground and wiped the sweat off his face whilst walking into the house. Instantly he was on guard. Something was wrong here, but he couldn't tell what. He slowly moved his hand down to his kunai pouch and got a kunai ready whilst continuing to walk towards his living room. As soon as he entered, he threw the kunai at breakneck speed and indented it within the walls, hearing a yelp. He was about to go and see who it was, but the lights turned on all of a sudden. He was blinded and heard them shouting, "Surprise!" Then it dawned on him. Today was his birthday, October 10th. he was 6 today. He smiled at them but turned his head to the side and saw where his kunai had landed. In the wall was a kunai, but on the kunai was an orange book, and below it was an adult Kakashi crying about his precious dying. Naruto's sweat dropped and said sorry. He knew how Kakashi loved that book. His mother and brother walked over and hugged him first, then Kurenai and Yugao both gave him a kiss on each cheek, which caused him to blush like a tomato and everyone else laugh. Happy birthday, Naruto. Thank you. They all went to open his presents, and for the first time in a long time he felt like a normal boy who had a family, maybe slightly weird family, but family nonetheless. He first opened Itachi's present and found it to be a scroll which was captioned, Magical Ninja Teleportation Jutsu. Itachi smirked at his little brother's wide eyes. It was no secret how much he wanted to learn that jutsu, it was just so useful. He thanked his brother profusely. Kurenai gave him a scroll of her personal genjutsu that she had created when she was younger, Megan, Jubaku Satsu. He smiled at his friend teacher. He hadn't expected her to teach him her own genjutsu. Kakashi was next and gave him a little package that looked like a book. Kakashi didn't feel all the ki coming off of every woman in the room as Naruto unwrapped the book. A Tale of an Utterly Gutsy Ninja. It was the book that you were named after. Your godfather Jiraiya wrote it. Remind me to kick him in the balls for not being here. Every male winced slightly as Kurenai patted him on the head. It seemed like she was having a slightly bad affect on him. Makoto gave him a basic fire jutsu that shot several small fireballs out of a person's mouth at a target. Genma gave him one of his dad's 3-pronged kunai and explained that it was given to him by his father and he was sure that he would want him to have it. Yugao gave him a book on how to keep his chakra sabers clean and maintained and promised him a spar when he started learning. The third Hokage went last and gave him 2 books, one on jutsu creation and one on the more advanced basics of fuinjutsu. He smiled and hugged his surrogate grandfather figure. The night went on and everyone had a great time. All were invited to stay the night, but everyone declined, saying they had work in the morning. Naruto nodded and allowed them to leave, but not before thanking each of them again. Flashback end It would be another 2 months until the academy started. Although he continued his genjutsu training, he made an extra 20 clones every day to practice his new ninja magic teleportation jutsu, which he soon found out was called a shunshin or body flicker jutsu. He once again showed them his genius and had it down within the first day, but kept practicing it. He felt that he could go fast and further the more he practiced. After 2 weeks non-stop practice with his clones, he found out something weird. When he would flicker away, there would be a bolt of lightning strike off his body. He soon found out that he was using an elemental body flicker on instinct, which to him was amazing considering he hadn't learned to properly transform his chakra into elemental chakra yet. He was too young still. He summarized that it was because he had such a high affinity to lightning that he could almost do it naturally, and that learning his first Raiden Jutsu was enough to learn the basics of nature transformation. He also practiced the genjutsu Kurenai gave him, and for the life of him he couldn't do it without his eyes. It really hurt his pride knowing that although he would be great at genjutsu, he would never be able to use genjutsu without his eyes properly. He knew that genjutsu took control simply because the chakra had to invade a person's chakra system and mold it a certain way to get the effects that she wanted. Deciding he would put it away until he had better chakra control, which would most likely be when he was a genin with his shadow clones working every day. He would read his jutsu creation book every day. He enjoyed reading about it and one day hoped to be able to create his own jutsu. There was even a bit about genjutsu creation in there. He read and reread that chapter of the book several times before an idea hit him. He may not be able to use genjutsu without eyesight, but what would happen if he used genjutsu without control? What would happen if he flooded someone else's body with his chakra, so much chakra that they couldn't move because of it, and if they couldn't move then they couldn't break it? Even if they could move, he doubted they could release it because the genjutsu release method needs a high chakra level that the chakra that was introduced to her system, and even if they could move it would still slow down their movements. He smiled at this thought. He could create a nin genjutsu hybrid such as this for people who had such a high level of chakra that they would never be able to use genjutsu effectively. This could be a start of a revolutionary breakthrough with genjutsu. He immediately sent out 500 clones to work on it, and 6 weeks later he had it down so he could use it to an efficient level. He was so proud of himself and kept it secret from everyone until he asked Kurenai, Itachi and Makoto to come with him to the Hokage's office. They obviously agreed because when he dragged them there they knew it was important. Naruto was happy as he could be at the moment and the others didn't understand why. Maybe it was the academy starting tomorrow. Hikari was sitting inside the seal by the lake watching through her container's eyes and was quite happy with what he had done. She saw potential for this jutsu against any Uchiha he ever had to fight and was glad he made this early on. If his chakra levels increased then this would help him against Madara when the time came for them to eventually fight. Barging through the door, Naruto had a smile on his face and the Anbu guards did nothing since they all had outstanding orders to let him through at all times. Hello Naruto-kun, why are you so happy? I created a new jutsu. Everyone in the room raised an eyebrow at this and wondered what the little genius had made, especially Kakashi, Yugao and Genma who were hiding on the walls as his Anbu guards. Well, I have some free time, why don't you show me? Maybe I can bring my Anbu guards with me since you know them anyway. Ye old man, let's go. He grabbed the old man's hand and shunshined them to his personal training field and the others soon followed knowing exactly where to go. The Hokage groaned. He wasn't used to being the one to be shunshined, it was usually the other way around. Everyone arrived seconds after them and Naruto asked for a volunteer. The Hokage said he would do it since if it was anything deadly he had best chance to get out of it without any pain. Naruto waved their concern off explaining it was a genjutsu. Naruto ran through 27 hand seals and said, Ninpu, kimono no shinu. Everyone looked expectantly at the Hokage but nothing happened. The Hokage went to ask what was meant to happen but he found he couldn't move his body except his eyes. Everyone stood for about a minute before Kurenai asked what happened. Naruto replied, I was looking for a way to be able to use genjutsu with my huge chakra reserves and found one. How? When looking through the jutsu creation book I got for my birthday I found a genjutsu section and happily read it. I remembered the explanation from Kurenai and Itachi about how genjutsu took control to invade someone else's chakra system and manipulate it to make them see what they want them to see. I took this a step further. I figured that if anyone has such chakra as me without the control needed then we should still be able to invade someone else's chakra system but not control it. This is the finished product. I invade someone's chakra system with so much chakra that they are paralyzed and even if by some miracle that they can move they won't be able to break it due to the amount of chakra in their system. He stopped the flow of chakra to the Hokage's system as he fell to the ground panting, damn that is deadly, how much chakra did you put in my system? About 50 kg bunchins worth. I'm labeling that an A-ranked kinjutsu due to the chakra useage. I'm guessing you can put more chakra into it as well. He nodded. That was the minimum amount of chakra for it to work. They were all shocked. Also, it wasn't purely genjutsu, it's a nin genjutsu hybrid. Why? URMOK. Ka-san, Ni-san, don't take this the wrong way but it kind of has a secondary affect of making a dojutsu useless whilst a person is under the jutsu. They both looked at each other before asking in unison, how? Naruto sighed, it invades the chakra network, even if you have a Sharingan you can't dispel it because of the amount of chakra it uses. It's the same aspect of the Nidaami's bringer of darkness genjutsu except mine can use more chakra. Everyone was amazed by this and Naruto just smiled at his creation. He accidentally created a Sharingan-proof genjutsu that can be used against them. Everyone left the training ground but Naruto gave a copy of his new genjutsu to the Sandaime to add to the forbidden scroll. Even if someone somehow managed to copy the hand seals they couldn't use it due to the amount of chakra needed, so he was fine. The next morning Naruto woke up a couple hours early like always and done his morning regime. Today the academy started and he was going to meet his brother and his cousin walking towards the academy under the guise of being his brother charge and walk to the academy together. All was going well until they actually met. Naruto had never met Sasuke before, and his mother and brother asked him to look after him in the academy and maybe try to stop him being so arrogant. He asked why he was arrogant, and they responded saying that her husband wanted a weapon that acted like an Uchiha. He thought Itachi failed as a weapon, so he was trying to mold his cousin into one. Itachi openly snorted at that. His cousin had skills, sure, but he was nowhere near Naruto's level, and Sasuke was training at the age of 4 before Naruto. It was safe to say that he would have his stepfather's holier-than-thou attitude and was probably already falling for the Uchiha curse and doesn't realize it. According to Itachi, he hadn't activated his Sharingan either, which was slightly disappointing. By the time Naruto entered the academy, his weights were around 20 kilograms apiece, except his wrists were set to 25 for hand seal training. Walking up to Itachi and Sasuke, who seemed to be waiting for him, he waved hello and saw his brother smile whilst his cousin scowled. "What kept you, Dobi?" Naruto inwardly growled, not wanting to start something, and just ignored it. "Itachi, thank you for waiting for me. I'm sorry I took so long, but on the way here I met Kakashi and he took me for a tour on the road to life. Unfortunately, we got lost together and had to find our way back." Itachi fell mid-step, mumbling something about Kakashi being a bad influence and how he was going to hide his Ika books. Across town, Kakashi felt a shiver go down his spine. "I feel a disturbance in the force. Must be Naruto getting me in trouble again. Let's go, we don't want to be late, right?" They both nodded and walked towards the academy in a comfortable silence, ignoring the glares towards Naruto. It seemed that after almost a year the civilians realized that he wasn't dead but changed his clothes. Idiots. His older brother warned him of things in the academy being extremely slow and one of the worst fates that young men can befall, fangirls. Naruto had already talked to his mother about this, and she explained that fangirls were the worst of the worst, and if he ever considered dating one she would knock some sense into him. He had already decided to be the dead last of the class before it even started to provide the villagers some more time when they think that he is stupid to provide some sort of comfort. When he told the Hokage about this, he agreed with his decision and praised the fact that he was thinking ahead, which was a skill quite a few shinobi still lack. Arriving at the academy, Itachi gave them both a pat on the back whilst waving goodbye. It was one of the ways Itachi showed affection to anyone. They both walked into class to only hear a loud squeal like a pig. Naruto turned around and saw some blonde and pink-haired girls glomp there. Sasuke-kun, whilst Naruto tried his best not to laugh at the scowl that was forming on his face. Taking their seats, Naruto sat at the back of the class behind everyone, hoping not to get noticed, whilst Sasuke sat by the window with both of his new fangirls sitting beside him staring dreamily. "Hikari-chan, you awake? You say something, Naruto. I'm bored and I'm sure this is going to be boring as hell. Any ideas?" "Learn the timetable and every day except taijutsu practice send a clone and you do whatever you want." "Works for me. By the way, congratulations on the jutsu you made yesterday. I was quite enjoying the faces of everyone looking through your eyes." "I forgot you look through my eyes. Wait a minute. Does that mean you watch me in the shower, Hikari-chan?" She blushed. Her of all people. Demons do not blush, so she decided to get her own back on him. "Only if you want me to, Naru-kun. I'm sure Kurenai-chan will join us," she whispered in a husky voice whilst he turned beet red and she stuck 2 fingers up in a victory sign. Note to self: never try to flirt with a 1,000-year-old demon. Naruto was pulled out of his thoughts when a man walked in and sat at the front of the class. "Hello class, my name is Iruka." Naruto tuned out here, and at break time, after finding out about his timetable, he created a shadow clone with enough juice to last the day. It whined about why he had to be the one to go to class, but eventually did it on the condition that he can act like a moron playing pranks. And this is how the next 2 years passed. Naruto would train whilst his clone would go to the academy. He would only go on taijutsu days, but as soon as that was over he would sneak away again. The hidden Anbu found this rather amusing to watch because he was a kid and knew the shadow clone jutsu. From his clone's memories, Naruto noticed that Sasuke was getting rather agitated lately and asked what was wrong, but all he got was, "None of your business, Dobi." Of course he already knew what was happening because of his mother and brother, and he was inclined to agree with them on the matter. It turned out that the Uchiha clan was split down the middle. Some were not happy with things since Hikari attacked and others just didn't care. They were planning a coup against the Hokage and the council, to take control of everything and in the end use Naruto as a weapon. Like hell was Itachi, and Makoto let them do that. It was getting rather close to the date now and talks had all but failed with the Uchiha clan. Naruto was worried that the elders would force the Hokage to do something drastic, and his fears were confirmed when Itachi came to see him 2 days before the extermination of the clan commenced. Ototo, you know about the coup, right? Hi, I've been tasked as the exterminator. Meaning, I will kill them all, except Sasuke. I want him to rebuild the clan in honor. What will happen to you? I will take the blame, make it look like a young Anbu captain couldn't handle the stress and snapped. I will become an S-rank nuke nin and protect Konoha from the outside. His eyes widened. Oh hell no. Not another one of my family is going to be used as a goddamn scapegoat again. Come with me now. Itachi looked worried. He had never seen his brother this angry, so he decided to follow him. Barging into the Hokage's office, he saw the 2 elders and the Hokage there. Elders, get the hell out. This is a private conversation. Watch what you say, boy. Learn some manners. If you don't get the hell out within 5 seconds, I will do one of 2 things. A. I will put you under a genjutsu and make you watch yourselves slaughter your family whether they are already dead or not continuously for a couple of hours, or B. I will go to the fire daimyo and explain to him how you treated the heir to the Namikaze clan. Which will it be? Everyone in the room paled. The elders, because they didn't think the boy knew how to do either, or the fact that he knew about his parents. Without a doubt he just made his life harder, but they nodded and left. The Anbu were secretly praising the ball on this boy. He would make a fine ninja one day. Activating his Sharingan that was now finally fully matured due to the amount of rage that he was feeling at the moment, and then shifting into his Mangekyo Sharingan, Sarutobi gulped. It was obvious that Naruto didn't care about the Anbu in the room, so the Hokage quickly put a silencing seal up so only the Anbu could hear this conversation. Anbu, whatever you see or hear you will never repeat or you will die. Which one of the elders' bright idea was it to use my brother as a scapegoat for this fucking village? Hiruzen gulped. Even with the boy's Mangekyo Sharingan blazing, he could tell that this was all like his father when he was angry. Danzo. That fool who still runs Root. How did you know about that? Don't take me for a fool. I see them following me, trying to find a way to make me into a weapon for him. Sarutobi was seething now. You have some of his goons in lockup, right? Yes, we've been trying to get the seal off of them that prevents them from talking about Danzo. Why? Let me explain this to you first. If you ever, and I mean ever, use one of my family for any type of scapegoat for this village like I was, so God help me, the council and this village will not be safe from my wrath. Do you understand? He nodded quickly. Truth be told, he was hoping he wouldn't find out about this, but he should have known better. Good. Itachi will still exterminate our clan. I will help. My stealth is so high that your Anbu can't find me, and with my Sharingan it will be easier to hide and get the job done. We will leave my cousin alive like the original plan, and we will put my mother in a false death state to be confirmed dead by a medic of your choosing, where she will be taken to my compound and live. She will change her name and wear a modified henge when out and about. Then after we are done, Sasuke will arrive just in time to see me and Itachi in Anbu uniforms, tying up the Root operatives, at which point we will blame Danzo. Sasuke lives and has Itachi, and my mother stays alive, and we get rid of the traitors who are planning the coup and Danzo. Everyone in the room blinked. They were all just outplanned by an 8-year-old boy. Why the hell didn't they think of that? They all nodded, and the Hokage took this moment to speak. The most promising Uchiha besides you and your brother was found dead last week, his eyes removed. They both looked shocked. Who? Shisui Uchiha. Oh damn. He had a Mangekyo as well, the only one apart from Naruto here. Itachi informed them. What did his do? I've still to learn the techniques for mine because I didn't want my eyesight getting worse. He had a special ability to place such an intricate genjutsu that even you would be hard-pressed to break it because the person is normal not aware they are in a genjutsu, it bends the person to the caster's will. Naruto's eyes reverted to his three tomoed Sharingan, sounds like a useful tool for politics. You have a point anyway if you are going to be helping Itachi tonight even though I don't want you to but I doubt you will listen to me and since you are a civilian I don't have control over you and if I don't catch you in the act then I can simply ignore it. You will need Anbu gear. You will be promoted to temporary junior Anbu meaning you don't get an Anbu tattoo but you get uniform and tools etc. Sweet. What code name do you want? Ghost. Everyone raised an eyebrow at that. Why? Well, when I don't want to be found you won't find me, it's simple. Also I will take the standard Anbu Tanto because my chakra sabers are too recognizable even if I haven't started learning yet. The Hokage activate a seal on his desk and a secret door opened. Inside were masks of previous and yet to be used Anbu masks. Pick on. Walking through the hall he was finding some nice masks but none felt right until he found a dusty one right at the end. It looked like no one touched it in years. He understood as soon as he saw it. A pure black mask with reed markings on each cheek and above the eyes proving to be a fox mask. He smiled. No one picked this mask and the mask picked him. Picking it up he walked over to the Hokage who looked at it and nodded in his choice, after all it was understandable. The Hokage gave him his uniform and it was way too big but he put it on anyway and it seemed to suck some of his chakra and resize. He looked at Itachi and the Hokage and they both answered the unasked question, one size fits all. How do I look? He asked with his uniform and mask on. Itachi was the first to reply, like a soldier. Good. When is the coup taking place? Tomorrow night at 2 in the morning. How are we going to get Sasuke out of there for this to happen? The Hokage raised his hand like he was back at the academy. I will assign him a trainer for the night and tell him even the best ninja train at night and that it is what you do Itachi and he will do it. I will make sure he ends the session at 5 to 2 in the morning so make sure to have it all done by then. Hi Hokage-sama. Both replied in unison and shunshin to Naruto's compound. As soon as they got there Naruto found himself embraced in a hug by his older brother. He noticed his mask was off and he was crying. I'm so proud of you Ototo, I would have happily taken the blame if it meant keeping you and your cousin safe. Itachi ni, sometimes taking the blame isn't enough, sometimes you must have someone to look out for you or you fall into despair. I almost did 3 years ago but you and Ka-san came into my life, then Kurenai and Yugao not to mention Genma and Kakashi. All of you saved me. If you did this then who would save Sasuke? Who would be his light? His eyes widened, he hadn't thought about that, he was trained as a weapon to think in the now and not the future, how could he not think about Sasuke and Naruto? He thanked the gods that he decided to tell Naruto today. Go get Ka-san and bring her here, we need to explain things. He nodded and disappeared to bring his mother here. Naruto sighed tomorrow was going to be a long day and probably was going to be the start of a long ninja career. He was only 8 but he would take this burden on his shoulders to lighten the load of his brothers. Hikari was no longer a burden but a friend. Hikari, are you awake? Did you hear all of that? Yes, and I must admit I'm quite proud of you. Thank you. What do you think about all of this? The Uchiha clan was doomed to fail as soon as I gave them their eyes. It's just luck that it happens to be when you were here so your brother and mother don't suffer. Thank you Hikari-chan, you always make me feel better when it comes to things like this. What are friends for? Please be on standby tomorrow night in case I need rapid healing, something might go wrong with this plan of mine. You got it. Just as she said that Itachi arrived with their mother who was looking rather flustered at being pulled aside rather quickly. Alright you two, what's going on and why the hell in my baby boy in Anbu uniform? Naruto sighed and started his tale. You know of the coup that's happening tomorrow night. Well, it's not happening now. Makoto brightened up at this and asked, why? Itachi and Naruto looked at each other before sighing, they do that way too much at the moment. The honorable elders coaxed Sarutobi into exterminating the clan. You would have died even though you had nothing to do with the coup and were against it, and the only one that would be left is Itachi and Sasuke, but Itachi would be held responsible and turn Chunin protecting Konoha from the outside. He would be registered as an active ninja with wonder rights like the Sannin, except he would be classified at triple S ranking in secrecy. She looked shocked and looked at Itachi to see him still crying from earlier. I'm sensing but here. But he told me beforehand, and I might have threatened the elders and Hokage into submission with a new and better plan. You what? I threatened the elders that if they didn't do what I wanted, I would place them under a genjutsu that would make them watch themselves slaughter their family for hours on end and mentally break them, or I would go to the fire daimyo and explain what happened to the Namikaze heir. Obviously they both agreed quickly, and my life will get a lot harder, but it was all worth it and I would do it again. What did you threaten the Hokage with? I told him that if he ever tries to use any of my family as a scapegoat again, then he or this village would not escape my wrath. She scowled at him and he just laughed nervously. You idiot. She went to smack his head but instead hugged him. But you're my idiot and thank you for whatever you did at the moment. You never have to thank me. So why isn't the coup happening now? I came up with a better plan. How? Danzo isn't as smart as he thinks. He thinks I don't notice those fools with blank white Anbu masks with the symbol, nay, on them following me to make sure I don't turn on this village. The fool. It took me a day to find out who and what they were just by looking in the archives. His little Anbu unit are now the scapegoats. Itachi will still exterminate the clan and I will help, hence the Anbu gear. My stealth is higher than most Anbu, and with my Sharingan I can hide even better. I will be able to watch his back from attackers whilst we do what is needed to be done. Sasuke will be kept alive and so will you, and officially you will be listed upon the deceased, but you will be in a false death state and will be checked first by the medics, at which point you will be pronounced dead. You will move in here, change your name and wear a modified henge outside. Only a few will know of your existence. You will be for all terms and purposes dead, and another woman will arrive to adopt me, which will be you. Itachi will look after Sasuke and I will keep an eye on him as well. Sasuke will be training with a personal trainer from the Hokage at night with the excuse that it is what Itachi did to get stronger, since we all know he wants to beat Itachi. He will finish at 5 to 2 in the morning when me and Itachi finish with the clan. He will arrive just as we finish, tying up the ones responsible, which are the 5 root agents we have in holding. Danzo will be forced to flee or die and the Uchiha clan lives on. Makoto stood there with wide eyes at the plan. How long did it take you to come up with this? 5 minutes. Once I heard who it was that coaxed the extermination, it was Danzo, so he must have something to gain, and I'm thinking that it is all the Sharingan eyes, so me and Itachi will be sealing up their bodies as we go to prevent any of them getting into the wrong hands. It will be played off as Danzo trying to gain more power and the secret will be held with us. Danzo won't talk because although he wants to be Hokage, he still loves this village even if he doesn't show it. She hugged her 2 sons at the same time and cried, I'm sorry you two have to do this. No one should have to do something like this. It is for the good of the village and we will still have each other. She nodded and they parted ways, getting ready for tomorrow night. They sighed yet again. This was going to be a long 2 nights and he hoped that he could live with what he had to do. Crow, are you ready? Hi Ghost. You are my backup, watch my back. Killing is allowed but only do it if you need to protect me or if one is about to blow our cover. These are not our family, remember that. Family doesn't betray family. Hi Ni-san. The old man has cleared the route for entry for us and all Anbu know to stay away from this sector tonight. It is currently 1:00 p.m. We have just under 3 hours to do this. Let's get it done. Seconds turned to minutes, minutes turned to hours as the night went on. Blood was everywhere but no bodies. They couldn't take the chance that they were being followed by Danzo and his men. 2.5 hours later they finished all but Itachi's immediate family. They both looked at each other and gave a tired nod before jumping to the roof. They still had half an hour before the coup took place and Sasuke was nowhere in sight, which they were thankful for. Dropping from the roof and hanging from the ceiling via chakra, they watched as their mother and father were sitting down talking. She was stalling. Nodding to each other they dropped to the floor silently and stood behind Fugaku Uchiha. They stopped talking. So Itachi, you have chosen your path. Hai-to-san. How many are left? Sasuke. You, Mum and my brother. Fugaku's eyes widened. Brother. Hi. Where is he? With us here. He helped me tonight so that the burden didn't fall to me alone, and for that I will be forever thankful. Allow me to see this child then. Itachi nodded to his brother, who took off his mask as Fugaku turned and gasped. You. Hello Fugaku. Who is your father? Minato Namikaze. He growled. That fool. He helped doom this clan even in death. Naruto put his mask back on, and through the eye holes you could see his fully matured Sharingan. Itachi chose this point to continue. Sasuke will live. You chose your path. Don't waver now, son, but know two things. 1. I am proud of you even though I never acted it. 2. Sasuke will fall to his hatred for revenge and eventually kill you both. Then so be it. We will be waiting. With that he stabbed his father through the heart and cried before a burning pain at the back of his eyes appeared. He wanted to scream but couldn't because his brother had his hand over his mouth. Their mother looked on in shock. Itachi's eyes changed from a 3-tomoed Sharingan to a 3-starred pinwheel Mangekyo Sharingan design. Itachi calmed down after a moment and his brother hugged him. Welcome to the club. He nodded, understanding what happened. They turned to their mother. I'm going to hit you in your neck. When you wake up you will be in my house and I will probably be asleep, okay? She nodded. Ka-san, I'm sorry what has happened tonight and I love you. I love you too as well. She felt a sharp pain in her neck and noticed a small senbon piercing it before she blacked out. Leave her here but remove the senbon and place some blood on her chest so it looks like we stabbed her through her heart as well so the doctors won't check the wound. Naruto nodded and did as told. I'm sorry I let you activate your Mangekyo. I knew it would happen but I honestly felt that it was you who had to be the one to do what was needed for your father. I will always be here for you, my brother. He nodded, satisfied with the answer. Shall we meet our cousin outside in about 2 minutes? Yes, we need to set up the stage still, right? Don't forget to turn off your Sharingan so he doesn't know another Uchiha lives. Naruto nodded and started to leave before turning to look one last time at his mother. A tear fell down his face. It suddenly hit him how much he killed tonight, how many family members lost someone before they met their demise and why it had to be done. Itachi noticed and hugged him. Don't crack yet, Odoto. We have one more, then we can cry all we need. Naruto nodded. Walking outside and unsealing several root-nin from prisoner transport scrolls already tied, gagged and knocked out, they bother stretched and sighed. Tonight was beginning to go on and they were both starting to feel the fatigue of events both physically and mentally. Naruto nodded to Itachi and Itachi clicked once on the radio to give the signal to the Hokage and his Anbu guards. Just as he had done that, Sasuke came running round the corner panting. Itachi looked to Naruto and Naruto nodded towards his brother. He removed his mask. Sasuke gasped at seeing his brother behind the mask, who was still crying. What have you done, Itachi? Saved your life. What? Our clan has been massacred. Me and this Anbu beside me were patrolling when they were finishing and we subdued them. They would have come for you if we hadn't stopped them. What about Ka-san? Tu-san? Dead. Everyone is dead. This was killing both Itachi and Sasuke. Itachi had to do his best not to act guilty and keep his emotions in check, and Sasuke just learned that his family has been torn apart, that he is one of the last Uchiha. Before either could comment, Itachi put his mask back on and stood at attention, the same as Naruto. The Hokage had arrived with his 3 guards, Kakashi, Genma and Yugao. They all knew who were behind the masks and were shocked at the scene they fell into. Kakashi had trouble believing his best friend's clan had been exterminated even though he knew it was true, and Genma and Yugao both had trouble believing that Naruto had done this with Itachi. None would voice the concerns. Naruto sped behind Sasuke and hit the back of his neck, knocking him out. There was no need to hear this. Crow, Ghost, report. Both Anbu took off their masks and looked up to show the group their tear-filled eyes, and the group instantly understood. For Itachi it was killing his kinsman, but for Naruto it was his first kill, but not just one, several. They would both need time after this. Mission accomplished, Hokage-sama. He nodded solemnly and asked Yugao to check the body of Makoto since she was a trained medic. She nodded and walked into the house. She was a battle-hardened shinobi, but even she was feeling slightly ill at the scene in front of her. Both Makoto and Fugaku Uchiha were covered in blood. She checked the pulse on Makoto and found none. Walking back outside, she looked at them and said, "Sir, no pulse. Good. Continue with the plan. Come to my office in an hour." "Hi Hokage-sama, please take Sasuke to the hospital whilst we handle our mother." He nodded and left with Sasuke to break the news to the council. Itachi hugged his brother again. "I'm so proud of you right now, Ototo. I would be feeling so much worse if you hadn't helped or come up with this plan. Forgive me for involving you. All is forgiven." He nodded and left to seal his father's body whilst carrying his mother's body towards her new home.